whiskey drinker. Well, okay, I'm drinking whiskey, and yeah, it's probably not a good idea, but at least I'm not doing drugs. Hello, my name's Ken Seal, and we're still talking addiction. All right, so in the last few videos, we've been discussing denial and denial patterns, okay? In the last video, we discussed 5 of them. We talked about avoidance. Avoidance, when you're avoiding things, you're just not going to talk about whatever that subject is, and if somebody keeps bringing it up, you're going to avoid that person. Absolute denial was the second one, which you just basically state that absolutely they don't have a problem with that, no matter what people say. Minimizing, well, maybe I might have a problem, but it's not a big problem. It's a little problem. It's no big deal. Rationalizing, yes, that could be a problem. Maybe it's a problem, but there's a reason for that problem. It's not my fault. There are reasons why that is going on. And then finally, blaming. In other words, it's somebody else's fault that I have this issue, okay? So those are the first 3. Today what we're going to do is we're going to discuss comparing. And probably that'll be the only one we'll be able to cover today because this tends to be a longer one. Okay, so comparing. All right. I always enjoy doing this one because it's a lot of fun to act out all these little characters. The first one would be this guy. Well, you're probably right. I probably drink too much beer, but, it's just beer. It's beer. It's not that big a deal. At least I'm not drinking whiskey. Now, the whiskey drinker, well, okay, I'm drinking whiskey, and yeah, it's probably not a good idea, but at least I'm not doing drugs. Now, I don't know how to tell you this, guys, but drugs is an alcohol, or alcohol is a drug, okay? Alcohol is a drug, whether you like it or not. At least I'm not doing drugs. I wish I had a nickel for every time somebody said that to me. Well, at least I'm not doing drugs. And while we're on that discussion, I just want to mention something, and that's this. I don't have a problem with drugs. I don't have a problem with alcohol. There are good uses for these things. Go back to the Revolutionary War before they had ether and things like that to put people out when they were having surgery and somebody got shot in the leg and they're going to saw it off. You're probably the guy that's going to have his leg sawed off by the butcher, okay, is probably going to be really happy that somebody figured out how to make rum so he can drink enough to pass out. The butcher is going to, put it on the saw just to sterilize the saw and maybe have a couple of pops himself just to settle his nerves. All right? So is there anything wrong with alcohol? No. If any of you have ever had surgery where they cut you open, you're probably happy that somebody figured out how to take that little opium poppy and turn it into a painkiller. So there is no problem with drugs or alcohol per se. For the majority of the population, it's not a big deal. But for some of us, those people who have addiction issues, it is a problem because we don't know how to handle it successfully. Okay? All right. So we're going to go back to comparing. So, at least I'm not doing drugs. Well, okay, all right. It's considered a drug, but it's just marijuana. It's just marijuana. It's a herb. It grows in the forest. It's natural. It's natural. Okay? Guy, it's natural. I don't know what your problem is. What's that to say? When's the last time I got off the couch? I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago. Did I go apply for that job? Well, I haven't got to it yet, but I will. I'll get to it. Okay? Marijuana, okay? Yeah, it's probably one of the more benign drugs out there, but the point is it's still a drug, okay? And if you are abusing it, it is going to screw up your life, okay? And there's a whole list of reasons why, which we'll get into later also. All right, but it's just marijuana. At least I'm not using coke. Well, okay. Yeah, I'm using cocaine, and I probably shouldn't be using as much as I am. But you gotta understand, I got 9, 10 kids, and I gotta pay the child support and pay the bills, and so I'm working 2 or 3 jobs, just keep going. And I need the cocaine to keep me going. And I'm not doing it for me. I'm doing it for my family. For God's sakes, I'm just trying to keep everybody happy. And at least I'm not using crack cocaine. Oh my God, crack cocaine. Now, for any of you who have had any experience with crack cocaine or people with crack cocaine, you'll understand that if they've just hit it off their pipe, you probably we won't be able to talk to them for another 25, 30 minutes. But in 25 or 30 minutes, it's always easy to find them. Just they may be down on the floor with a comb, sweeping the floor to see if they dropped any of it down there. Okay? You know, it's interesting. Years ago, I had a client of mine, and I asked her, I said, well, how did you know you had a problem with crack? And so she says to me, well, I was smoking crack one day, and I was done, and I was on the floor with my comb, and I found this huge rock, and I'm thinking, oh my God, look at this great big rock. This is wonderful. And I put it up on the coffee table, kept sweeping. When I got done, I got up, I took that rock, and I'm thinking, this is great. How the hell did I miss this? And I stuck it in the pipe, and I lit that damn thing up. Do you know how bad Cheerios taste when you burn it? It's nasty. Okay, yeah, maybe she's got a problem with crack cocaine. But at least I'm not using methamphetamines. Not using methamphetamines. So, I had a friend of mine tell me about this. He gets a call from a gentleman who just got out of prison, and he was supposed to do an assessment for this guy, and the parole agent said to get in touch with him. And so the guy calls him up and says, look, I've got to get this assessment, but I don't have a car to come and see you. Is it possible for you to come out to the house? So this guy said, yeah, I'll go on. So he goes out, and so he's telling me about this story. So he's driving down this road, and he sees a house in the garage, 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 a house in a hole. Well, it must be the right place. Why is there a hole there? Because he blew up his meth lab that was in his garage. Probably explains why he couldn't drive to see you, because more than likely his car was in the garage when he blew up the garage. So when he goes into the house to meet the guy, he goes to shake the guy's hand, and the guy's hand's all blown apart because he blew his hand off practically when he blew up the garage in his car. And he also told me that he says, I'm pretty sure I'm in the right spot. When I looked at this guy and I looked at his wife, because both of them, I knew they were both under 30 years old, but they both looked terrible. They looked like they were 40 years older, and they were all scarred up and nasty. And I told him, well, I know why that is, because I'm convinced that people who use meth, they smoke it in what I call the ugly pipe. The ugly pipe's about this long. Okay, they take a hit off that sucker, and then they take it like this, and what they don't understand is that ugly pipe's made out of lead, and then they take it and they hit themselves in the face with it, knock out their teeth, and scar themselves all up. Okay, methamphetamines, nasty, nasty, nasty stuff. But at least I'm not using oxycodone. All right, I may be using oxycodone, but you got to understand, this was prescribed to me by a doctor, so it can't be bad. It can't be bad. It's oxycodone. It can't be bad. At least I'm not using heroin. And the guy that's using heroin looks at him and says, okay, yeah, I'm using heroin, but you have to understand, after my doctor got thrown in jail for prescribing the hell out of this stuff, and they cut me off, I went out and bought Oxy on the street, but that stuff's expensive. Heroin's a hell of a lot cheaper. It's a hell of a lot cheaper. So it's not my fault, you know? I mean, it's heroin. And I'm not as bad as the next guy. And you know what? The point is, I may be smoking heroin, but I'm just smoking it. I'm snorting it. I'm snorting heroin. I'm not injecting it. That guy's injecting it. And the guy that's injecting it says, well, okay, I'm injecting it, but I'm sleeping on the park bench. That guy's sleeping on the ground. The bottom line is we keep comparing. We love to compare. All right? I may be bad, but I'm not as bad as he is. When I was working in the prisons, I always had to laugh. I'd say to somebody, I'd ask a guy, hey, well, what are you in for? I murdered somebody. I go, whoa, man, that's rough, murdering people. He says, yeah, but I just murdered one guy. He murdered a whole family. We love to compare ourselves. We love to say, hey, he's bad. I may be bad, but he's a lot better. It's normal. It's natural. We want to avoid pain. Right? We don't want to think about those things. So we like to compare. Comparing is very prevalent in the addiction area. People with people who are addicts and alcoholics, they're always trying to compare. Okay, they're always trying to compare themselves. I may be bad, but I'm not as bad as the next guy. Okay, so that's the comparing part. We'll get to some more next time. If you like what we see, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and we'll keep these things coming for you. Okay? All right, great. Thank you.